listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the #1 global business talk and news network on the internet, IBGR, International Business Growth Radio, the world of business at your fingertips. I am Jason Wally Waldron, the secret weapon behind owners, founders, and CEOs of blue-collar and industrial companies who apply Exitology to grow faster and maximize the value of their business. When these owners feel trapped in their businesses, we apply Exitology so you can buy back your time and freedom. I am your host for today's show. This season, we've been talking about creating lasting value even in a challenging economy. And today, I am very honored to be joined by our special guest, Chris Felton. Chris is an Amazon best-selling author. He is a 7-figure financial services entrepreneur, and his company has 200 agents, and they have helped over 17,000 clients. And if you look him up, he's been featured in U.S. News and World Report, Market Watch, Yahoo Finance. The reason why we're having Chris on the show here today is he is going to share some of his lessons from being on the brink of bankruptcy and divorce to building a top financial services firm. And there's a lot of great stuff he's going to share here today. And so, Chris, with that, welcome to the show.
Wally, awesome to be here, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Chris, I am as excited as anyone to be having this discussion here today because I frankly don't really know too much about where you come from, being on the brink of bankruptcy and divorce. And then, when I met you, you already had built a top financial services firm. And so I would love to dive in for our audience and really start with the beginning. Tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you come from, and the good, bad, and ugly of how you got from point A to point B here today.
Yeah, man. I grew up in Loveland, Colorado, about 60 miles north of Denver, and went to Colorado State University, which we know is the Harvard of the West, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's right, brother. And started my career at a big accounting firm. I call myself a recovered CPA, and then decided that working for other people was not for me, and basically started moonlighting in 1999, and then left that firm in February 2000 and started in financial services industry, and was pretty bad and spent most of the time talking people out of doing business with me. I was really good at that. And then got divorced, got married, had 2 kids, got divorced, and then married my second, current, and last wife, Marlo, in case she's listening. And
that's right.
Yeah, and had some success at that firm. I was getting a lot of trophies and awards and was speaking a lot. But what people didn't know behind the scenes was I was broke. I was $250,000 in credit card debt. I took down a 6,000 square foot office lease I couldn't afford. And Marlo, my second, current, and last wife, walks into a situation where I looked successful. I knew how to say the right things, but behind the scenes was kind of a mess. And I hid it from her pretty good. And she started, asking me, hey, what's going on with the money? And we need, we got married, let's merge our finances. And I'm like, hell no, we're not merging our finances. And then a moment of enlightening, an enlightened moment when I was meditating in my garage, because there was no place else to do it because I was in this little house and I was broke. I got the download from God that basically was like, turn the money responsibility over to her. Quit doing it.
Yeah.
And single best financial decision I ever made. And so I shared with her, hey, here's what's happening. And then a week later, she really got an understanding of what was happening. And then I was in the kitchen.
Wow.
I was in the kitchen doing dishes. And if you ever felt like your spouse staring at you,
yeah,
I look up at this horrified face, and she's like, "What did you do?"
Oh man.
Like,
so hold on for a second. I mean, you just shared so much stuff, right? And so, And so first of all, I think, you went through just on an entrepreneurial level, you had the entrepreneurial seizure, right? I'm working at the accounting firm, kind of doing all the right things, on the surface, right? But you know that this isn't for you. You go out on your own. The word that came to mind when I was hearing some of this was all hat and no cattle. You built this thing that looked super successful over here from the outside, and you peel back the surface even a little bit, and it's just a disaster. And what I love about this, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later in our in a different segment later, is that you went inside and waited for the download from God. And, and folks, folks who have listened to this entire podcast series, they know that one of the things that we ask people to do, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more too, is, really understand the inner game of business. And so one of the dichotomies that we talk about is the Miner and Miller dichotomy, and we'll get there later. But I think the fact that you went inside and really went to a spiritual level and then listened, that really is something that I want people to just pick up on there. And so then you listened, you started to hand things over to Marlo, your wife, and tell me about that look on her face.
Yeah, I mean, not only listened but acted, right?
Yeah.
And took the action. Well, so we sat down. We had the come to Marlo meeting, which was awesome. Where she's like, she introduces this 4-letter word to me called a budget, and I know it's not 4 letters, but she was just trying to get everything reined in.
Yeah.
And one of the things we have to watch as humans and entrepreneurs is being delusional. And it's a quote in my book. I optimism and delusion sleep in the same bed together, and entrepreneurs often are very delusional. And I was delusional. So she's like, "Hey, this is bad. This isn't working. This sucks. Like, how are you doing it?" I'm still asleep. I'm still like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn it around." I had, as my coach I worked with for 4.5 years, I had no relationship to actual results. Right.
Yeah.
So that meeting didn't work very well. Fast forward about 9 months after that, we had to get out of that house that we owned. We had to rent a house. And the awakening moment was I was out of places to borrow money. I was out of places to get money.
Yep.
And I had this $5,200 first of the month alimony and child support payment I had to pay my ex-wife. And so I'm leaking money everywhere. And so I was out of money to pay her. So I had to come home and convince my wife to give me her savings.
Oh boy.
To pay my ex-wife.
Look, let me take your savings and all of your hard-earned work, and now that you're my wife, clean up my former mess. That's awesome.
Yeah, because she had money separate from me because she knew better than to commingle money with a broke dude, right?
Totally.
So we call this the purse throwing incident, Wally. And so my wife's 5'1", everyone's scared of her. Volcanic Marlo's not a fun sight, but she actually threw her purse at me, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And we had the fight of our lives. And just you this and you that. And how can you be a CPA and a financial advisor and be broke? Like, what is your frickin' deal? And then I'm like, well, if it's so bad, why are we still married?
Wow. You guys went so real. I mean, right? Like, I mean, you talk about, I have a friend who calls this the divine gift giver of awareness. And I noticed that came with 3 purses thrown at your head and a very difficult discussion. So yeah, what happened there? Why are you still married?
Yeah. So that question hit her, and total silence. She went upstairs to ponder that question the rest of the night. And then my awakening moment was right then and there. And I could just see literally, dominoes falling in my life. And I'm like, oh yeah, my ex-wife never really had a chance because I expected that marriage to fail. And it's something I talk to people about, and regardless of business or life, you don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always that question, what are you really, 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 really in your heart of hearts expecting? So she never had a chance because I expected it to fail. My kids were very little. They were like 4 and 1. They're on the other side of the country in Atlanta. I'm in Colorado. I hadn't seen them. I'm drinking a ton. I'm a freaking disaster. And then I realized that, the common denominator to all these problems is me. And that's when I said, and I had to quit living in hopium. And that's where most people live, in delusion and hopium, hoping the outside world is going to change while they insist on staying the same. I call that rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic. And so right then and there, I'm like, dude, you got to take 100% responsibility.
Yeah.
And so the next day, my wife and I came together, and she's like, nope, we're staying together. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting jobs. We're going to get this thing figured out. And she got on planes, trains, and automobiles and tracked down wealthy entrepreneurs that we had access to. And our first book, Couples Money, came from that. But then she was just asking me, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to change. And I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed.
So this is really amazing. And I think this sets us up for this next section we're going to talk about here, including beliefs and some of these things. But you really shared a lot there. And, the one thing that I just picked up on, and you didn't explicitly share this, but you shared it through the story, was the importance of having a wife, a partner who backs you up when you're an entrepreneur. And notice that backing you up first looked like getting some stuff thrown at your head, which it sounds like you really needed, but then ultimately helping you out of that jam. Do you have any final thoughts? Maybe tell us where we can find your book, and then we'll take a short break here in a second.
Yeah, well, nothing happens without her. She's the secret sauce. But my book, Think and Grow You, at websites chrisfelton.me. Yep, that's where you can find it.
That's awesome. Chris, thank you for kicking us off here and just going right into it and telling us the good, bad, and the ugly of how this all started, because we know there's a happy ending at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to talk about how you got there. So folks, we're going to take a short 2-minute break. You're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio Network.